Welcome to One Man's Tracks, a secondhand music channel. This week I've been having a really funkin' good time listening to and learning about this nurturing and self-assured soul sister named Erykah Badu. From her early years rapping under the name Apples at her performing arts high school, to her first demo tape getting the attention of D'Angelo's manager Kadar Masonberg, her getting signed to Universal, her career explosion in 1997 that would coincide with the release of her multi-platinum debut album Baduism, her legendary partnerships, both romantic and otherwise, and just all the incredible musical collaborations she's done over the years. Erykah Badu's passionate blend of R&B, funk, and jazz with hip-hop was marketed as neo-soul. She's not much of a fan of labels herself, and so she generally chooses to not define her sound at all and prefers that the listener feels more free to interpret it in their very own way. She's undoubtedly a student of the funk, combining her jazzy, soulful voice with the creative world of hip-hop in order to create a vehicle to deliver her heartfelt messages to the masses. Such a strong and inspiring force, touring her first album while pregnant, releasing a live album on the very same day she gave birth to her son, a double platinum live album at that, released in 1998. It would be followed up in 2000 by her second studio project, Mama's Gun. Touring that album fairly relentlessly, she built a little mini studio on her tour bus and started recording a collaborative EP while driving around the country, and that EP would eventually morph into her next LP. This is her third studio album, released in September of 2003 through Motown Records, produced by the Frequency Crew, which contains Badu herself, as well as Rashad Smith, James Poyser, and R.C. Williams. This is her fourth straight top 10 album, Erykah Badu's Worldwide Underground. Growing out of spur-of-the-moment recording sessions with artists they would meet on the road while touring Mama's Gun, this CD isn't as focused or direct as her other projects are, less clearly defined, more designed as one continuous groove to take you along the ride as Erykah Badu and her Frequency compatriots explore the streets of love, adolescent experimentation, gangs, and ghettos, all while maintaining a steady, easy-going, laid-back flow. Although it was originally conceived as a fun and free EP, it might have turned out to be one of the most album-oriented projects in Erykah's entire catalog. Sure, some of the songs here on their own can feel overindulgent and overly experimental, but within the context of this track list, these songs fulfill a multitude of functions, giving some wonderful phases, some emotional highs and lows all the way through, while still staying steady throughout this entire track list. This 10-song album can simultaneously feel just like a few freewheeling long numbers, as well as over a dozen individual songs in its own right. You can get a decent idea of the general vibe from checking out a couple of the songs, but the beauty and the overarching mood that it creates is only achieved when you set aside the 54 minutes it takes. You relax and dive in from the top. Starting with this album's lounge hop intro titled World Keeps Turning. Erykah and crew ease you into the groove on this low-key little number that serves as a friendly reminder that whatever happens, the big wheel's gonna keep on turning. So while we're on it, let's bump it with some fat beats and heavy bass. Bump It being the title of the next moving, grooving cut. It's this laid-back party starter that instructs the listener to turn up the fade or bust the maid or shake the tweed or bump it, well, 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 bump it, well, well. This sort of truer opening track sits at over 8 minutes long and has this meandering electronic outro that isn't nearly as enchanting once you remove it from its surrounding songs, but for me it just helps reinforce the lack of urgency I associate with listening to this album. Sure, there is a lot of real-life urgency out there, but I think we all could really use a little bit of time to just sit, reflect and chill, and then we can dive back into the chaos later. Something I have to mention straight up the gate as I'm talking about the songs here, the bass playing by Braylon Lacey is just incredible. He creates this funky tonality that I find irresistible. It grabs hold and rarely lets go across this entire thing. Speaking of reflecting and chilling, the song Back in the Day Puff provides exactly that with its simple, feel-good funk vibes. It takes me back to being a rosy-eyed teenager up to no good, pretending to be aloof. It says that Lenny Kravitz played the guitar in the liner notes here, but then the Wikipedia tells me he was supposed to be credited in the following song. Regardless, both these tracks do have great guitar sections, this one just being a little more notable, reminding me of the Chili Peppers' Dark Necessities riff a little bit. Now, I've covered a few songs that have the title I Want You, but this one's definitely the longest at nearly 11 minutes. It is an epic love song with this accelerating heartbeat-style drum and keyboard intro that takes the first minute pumping you up before the enchanting vocal sorceress takes hold and hypnotizes and battles with a common Badu theme of forbidden love. Not lyrically as dense as her other projects, sure, but man does it convey her emotions just as effectively. This track is easily my favorite with its fantastic builds and enthralling vocals. Once more, you end up with a few indulgent minutes of electronic experimentation as the outro here. It drags on a bit longer than necessary, but does eventually find its way to a fun little cut called Woo! It's a freestyle on-the-spot thing they just did while on the stage at the tour. People dug it, so they recorded it, and it is definitely a weaker spot in the track list, but again, it's just a chill reminder to loosen up and enjoy wherever you're at. There's a rough return to reality with The Grind. It's an anti-corporate song about living life in the ghetto that's written and performed by dead Prez members M1 and Stickman, with Erykah just providing some backup harmonics here. It's a perspective check that has a clear message and is performed well over a pretty banging beat. It's followed by probably the most confrontational rap track I've heard from Miss Badu, Danger. It borrows a line from her debut album from the song Other Side of the Game, and it hypes it up with these classic fuzzy gangster horns and themes. It goes pretty hard. This one's intense, but it still manages to stay smoky and funky like the rest of the tracks here, and just maintains an excellent atmosphere and energy. I guess I'd better go check out Donald Byrd, because here's the second album in a row where his name has popped up, and these albums came out nearly 15 years apart. In this case, it's Erykah singing a modern, soulful rendition of his song Think Twice. It's all wrapped up in this cool, lively jazz bar atmosphere. You've got Roy Hargrove on the trumpet, all sorts of chatter, background bustle, and clapping. It's just a neat track. That brings us to the unbelievable confluence of lady legends on the infectious, kinda closing number, Love of My Life Worldwide, Ode to Hip Hop. Queen Latifah, Angie Stone, Bahamadia, and Erykah herself all drop a slick 16 on this dope, funked up ode to one of the greatest genres out there. Ring ding dong, ring a ding 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 dong. Returning then to the same spot where this record started off, World Keeps On Turning comes back as the outro, bookending it as a pleasant way to both open up the first chapter and close the last on this sensual, captivating, multi-layered electronic funkscapade. Worldwide Underground is a fun and catchy listen. It's a different direction and vibe from her previous, more R&B and lyrically focused projects, but it also certainly does inform her New America releases that came after it. It kind of feels to me as this laid-back oasis in this desert of righteousness that Erykah has created that gives me just the right R&R, R&B that I love to sink right into when I'm feeling a little too stiff or a little too dried out. One of the realest voices in the game, Erykah Badu isn't beholden to anyone but herself and her vision. She has an incredible voice and a magnetic personality. When she enters a room, there's a gravitas there that you just are pulled to listen and be attentive to what she's doing. It's enabled her to work with some incredibly talented artists, producers, and engineers, and helped her to produce some truly inspiring works. She's had several high-profile relationships throughout her career, having a child with Andre 3000, Jay Electronica, and Common. She's acted in movies as well as continued her prolific collaboration spree, working with an unreal list of artists. She hasn't released a whole lot out of the Erykah Badu name. There was a 2015 mixtape called You Can't Use My Phone, is pretty dope, and then she released a single back in 2019, just a cover of Tempted by Squeeze. I know there's been rumors of a bunch of other mixtapes that just haven't seen the light, and so there's a bunch of tunes that are just kind of bubbling under the surface, it seems, for Miss Badu. I never want to pressure her, but boy would I love some more music from this magnificent woman. I guess in the meantime, leave me a comment telling me about your favorite old soul singer or your favorite contemporary soul singer for further exploration. Here's a review of Plantation Lullabies by Indege Cello, Miss Michelle, and over here I talk a little bit about Janelle Monáe's Dirty Computer. Subscribe for next week's throwback album review, and like the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I love